Hello and thanks for joining us on the Tuesday edition of Journalist Hangout. I'm Ayodele Uzubakun. Today on the program, Lagos joins Edo State in imposing 24-hour curfew over violent EndSARS protests as House of Representatives call on President Buhari to invoke executive order to meet the demands of the EndSARS protesters. Later on the show, Tinubu appeals to EndSARS protesters to call off protests as civil society organizations kick against possible use of soldiers to crush protesters. I'll be hanging out with Babajide Kolade Otitoju, while Wale Adeoye and Olayinka Oyegbile will join us via Skype. So if you are ready, let the hangout start now. Thank you for joining us. All parts of Lagos State are now under indefinite 24-hour curfew after violence broke out during the EndSARS protest in some parts of the state on Tuesday. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu said the step became imperative to avoid a state of anarchy after lives and limbs have been lost in the attacks. Similar curfew was also declared in Edo State on Monday after EndSARS protesters in Benin City went awry, with hoodlums breaking into Benin correctional centers and freed some inmates. There have been cases of violence in many states while protests against police brutality persisted. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives want President Muhammadu Buhari to invoke an executive order to meet protesters' demands. Babajide, it would seem the event of the last 24 hours left Governor Sanwo-Olu with no choice. Governor Sanwo-Olu has been outstanding the way he has been negotiating with the EndSARS protesters. He was in Lekki twice, I saw of the videos, and then Alausa on Monday morning, he actually addressed them, and he has been taking their messages back and forth to Mr. President. But if you read the statement declaring this curfew, you will know that it's as if somebody the Lagos State government is like pushed to the limits to declare this 24 hours curfew.
Well, it's inevitable that this had to happen. We really do not have a culture of resistance and of consistent protest in our country. That is why the urchins, the motor boys who rely on daily income, who can barely get by without their daily income, they are the ones who clearly transmuted to thugs and urchins, who hijacked the protest of the EndSARS guys and began to do what the EndSARS protesters never had any plan to do.
At all.
Their own form of resistance, their protest was well known, and they were very well organized because a lot of them are educated, and they were not sponsored by politicians. They kept politicians at bay. They wanted their agitation to have a high level of credibility. But at the end of the day, they've been smeared by these guys because
unscrupulous elements.
Yes, because it became an all-comers affair. Once it became an all-comers affair, how do you then draw, a line in the sand that, look, you do not go beyond this point? So those thugs took over. Some of them were blocking the road and asking for money, and as if that was not enough, they resorted to outright violence.
We had them, they were so organized in Lekki.
Yes.
They were in Lekki and they were in Alausa here. And we knew those two major points. But all of a sudden...
Those were not the places where we had violence.
All of a sudden, Ikorodu boys just started bringing out...
Those ones they are cultists.
Started bringing out...
In Ikorodu, they are cultists. You know, they are cultists.
Renowned cultists.
It became an opportunity for the cultists to take on one another.
Rival groups.
Yes, it began like a conflict between two rival cult gangs. And then some people were caught in the crossfire, killing people. Yes. So with that and the frustration of some of the motor boys and other thugs who had not been able to as it is said.
Like the one that went to the police station today. What's the name of that police station that was burnt today?
Orile
police
the
station.
Orile police station. See, the NSAS protesters were taking food even to policemen.
Yes.
We showed where they were giving drinks to policemen.
I'm telling you that we'll fight for
and
you.
Among their demands was the need to increase police salary. Yes. So when people say they declared an outright war against the police,
no, it wasn't.
It is
the people that were
somebody,
stoning the policeman today.
They were not the protesters. It is somebody incapable of thinking. It is the incurable sycophants who are saying, oh, you declared an outright war against the police. They never declared a war against the police. They asked for reform. I have also asked for reform. And even the issue of police reform, they had been talking about it since the Yaradua years. It's not a new thing. So if people ask for a reform of the police, a comprehensive reform, which the VP promised, you can't then describe that as a declaration of war against the police. But we live in an era in which people cannot reason beyond their noses. So they will say all kinds of things. Yes, this protest, where it is now, we are all embarrassed. We do not want things to degenerate beyond this point. So the governor had no choice.
They made the state ungovernable for
Yes,
them.
because the thugs have taken over. And the people started the protest. They have no way of policing the protest.
No, they can't.
They have no way. They don't have the capacity to go. Look at the areas where this protest turned into an affair of the thugs, the thuggish affair. All of those places, there are so many unemployed boys, young boys who have nothing to do. Over the years, we refuse to think about them, think about their welfare.
Like
and we think we will have peace.
Waiting to explode.
No,
yes.
we won't have peace. Over the years, no form of welfare, nothing. We do not care. Unemployment is at about 35%, if not more, in our country. And we want peace. Anytime there is a slight threat to violence, the unemployed amongst us, the thugs who have no work to do,
and if that is not an underestimation,
except during campaigns, you know, when you fill campaign grounds with them and give them 1,000 naira, those thugs,
arm them.
Yes, and arm them to kill innocent people. Those thugs will come out, and we will see the kind of thing that they did today. So that is the thing.
Everywhere.
The society is also to blame.
Cut off Lagos Ibadan Expressway, cut off Lagos from mainland from the island, and everywhere was a standstill. But once the governor announced 4 p.m., I saw the rat race.
Yes, and the truth is, a lot of the people blocking the road, a lot of them are not even convinced about what these people are fighting for.
They don't even know.
The real agitators who are clear-headed about their mission, even after the declaration of curfew, they refuse to leave Alausa.
Yeah.
The real people, not the thugs who are running riots in Lagos, the real people who are convinced that they are fighting a good cause, they refuse to leave Lekki.
Yes.
As we speak,
yes,
they are still being appealed to leave the place.
Yes.
The people who ran away, who ran away, then we can ask yourself, are they truly the protesters? They are people who want to try to exploit the opportunity to exploit people, take money from Okada riders. That's what they've been doing to our people. And you call that protest? No, it's not.
People.
Extorting money from people.
Motorists.
So this is the thing. I'm not surprised.
Wale Adoye, why is it so easy for the protest to be hijacked?
Well, because we have a vulnerable society. We have a large population of unemployed youths who are looking for any opportunity to vent their anger. So riots or protests provides that very good opportunity for them to seize that opportunity to commit crime. These are very few people, but few vocal and dangerous. That when they enter into any small gathering, you know, no matter how small their population is, when they enter into a huge gathering, they can easily destabilize and change the focus
and dangerous.
of those that are charging that because they are armed with cutlasses, with dangerous weapons. So if you have a population of about 10 men in a crowd of about 1,000, they can cause mayhem. They can cause confusion. So that was exactly what happened. The protest was hijacked by hoodlums who had parochial agenda to steal, to maim, to commit crime, and to make life unsafe for the protesters themselves. So I think it was necessary for the government to intervene in order to restore some level of sanity. So I think the government has no other option than to take that decision. If that decision was not taken, you will discover that in the night, in the dark hours, a lot of atrocities were committed yesterday. When people have gone to sleep, they are on the street, attacking people, taking people's handbags and all that. And I just understand a few minutes ago that Ekiti has also imposed curfew because they are also, the talks also took over that initiative, like what happened in Edo State, going to police to release criminals. I mean, I don't think any protester will have done that because you are releasing people that will unleash terror, mayhem, and death on the citizens that you are, on whose behalf you are protesting. So I think it's very important that there should be a kind of strategic intervention to save the protesters, to save the goal, the noble goal of the masterminds of the protest itself.
Yeah, Olayinka, there are reports that the curfew is still being disobeyed, and we're looking at how much longer can this protester hold out.
Well, first of all, we must say that what has happened is a clear failure of leadership. Honestly, if we are going to really talk seriously about it. In Lagos, we have seen a situation where the governor has taken the leadership. But what is happening at the federal level? We have statements being released here and there, but what people are really demanding for has not been clearly addressed. And how do you address this? Why is it that the governor in Lagos did not ask the chief press secretary to issue a statement? Why is it that it's not the commissioner for information that will issue a statement? Why is it that it's the governor himself that took over the initiative? What is happening at the federal level? Look, if we must tell ourselves the truth, at the federal level, the ball has been dropped. And there's everything is clear about that. Shakespeare says there is a tide in the affairs of men, which taking at the flood leads to fortune. But when you refuse to take the action you are supposed to take, this is the kind of thing that happens. Okay, at a point, they said, okay, give us your leaders, let us talk to them. They said we don't have a leader. Does that not send a signal to our leadership that, look, this protest does not have a leader? So we must address this thing immediately. But you let it hanging and you allow Hoodlums to take over. It is good. Honestly, I must commend the Lagos State governor for what he has done. He has really taken leadership. And what is leadership about? Leadership, you display leadership at the time of crisis. Leadership is not at the time of peace. It is at the time of crisis. And the Lagos State governor has seized that initiative. But at the federal level, nobody has taken any really step to say that, this is what we are going to do. People want you. Is it only when you want to vote that you make a broadcast, that you come on TV and radio? No. This is the time people need the president to talk to them. I mean, you might say that, no, the president doesn't have to talk every time. But when a crisis has become to this level, there is no leadership among the protesters, but there is a central leadership. The leadership should seize the initiative and come out and say, it is not enough to say that we have agreed to all your 5 points. We want to hear it from the president. Okay. People want to hear it from the president. You are the father of all. But we dropped the ball at that point.
Thank you, Yinka. Jide, like what Yinka just said now, like I just look at it and the vigor at which Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has been pursuing the agenda of this NSAS people, and he has been interfacing with them. And if the same vigor is shown by the federal government, we might not have gotten to this place where...
Well, in the beginning, we didn't do the right thing. For example, we we talked about reforming SARS 3 years ago. Did we do it?
No, we didn't.
We didn't do it. That is why this happened. If we had done it, this government has a bad reputation of leaving matters to degenerate before wading in. I remember when one young man was killed here in Lagos. And before then, there were other murders by these notorious SARS people. The IG had to come to Lagos. But what did we do? If we had taken concrete steps at that time, at the federal level, because it is the at that level that they control the police.
They have the power.
We didn't do anything. And it is this kind of attitude of vacillating, of making promises that you will not fulfill or that you are reluctant to fulfill, that makes this young people,
all these agreements.
that makes these young people not trust leadership.
Agreements, yes.
They don't trust you. I had the VP and I sympathize with him saying, look, we want to earn your confidence. We want you to have confidence. We are going to do confidence building measures. As I have also demanded that, look, one of the ways to cause this thing to end is to build confidence. We don't do that. So they know that for many years we've had this habit of making promises that we don't fulfill. What, for example, on the issue of salaries of the police, nothing stops the president from saying, look, I've agreed, I'm going to do this, but I can't do police alone. We have to do the armed forces together. And these are the steps. He could approach the National Assembly that, look, this is what he wants to do.
Okay.
They will see those signs. You understand? As we speak today, you can't see any sign that there is a plan to increase salaries of policemen. And it's one of the demands. It's not enough to simply say, oh, we have agreed to all your demands. If you can agree, but if in the fullness of time you don't do it,
but the House of Rep has told Mr. President to invoke executive order to grant the requests of the protesters. Do you think this is a good step?
It was one of the demands of those guys then, that they needed the president to make an executive order banning SARS. Remember when the president ordered the IG to go and announce the banning of SARS, they ignored the directive. They said they wanted the president to talk. So they thought the president by himself will make an executive order
to the National Assembly.
If we are taking that step immediately, then perhaps we will not have reached this level. Because they demanded, they said, we don't want to listen to the IG. It is the president
to address us.
They even said, let him make an executive order. Because they thought with that executive order, SARS will be banned forever. Because they were saying, look, this IG has promised to reform SARS over time and didn't do it.
Even to disband roadblocks from Lagos to Benin now, over 200 roadblocks.
That's the way it is. You know the thing is, when people, that is the southern Nigeria, especially the southeast.
It's like it's under siege.
So many checkpoints. You go to the north, you don't see checkpoints like that. You go to the north, you don't see SARS people misbehave the way they misbehave in southern Nigeria. That is what, if they were misbehaving like that, I know my people in the north, they don't have the patience that people have here. If they were misbehaving like that, they would have risen against them without an organized protest. They would have risen against them. But they don't, SARS men don't behave like that in northern Nigeria. Even some of my friends have said, we have our different problems. Our problem is banditry. We don't have problem with SARS. And I don't blame them because they don't feel what people feel here.
Yeah, down south.
How many times have you read that SARS suddenly killed like 3-5
Yahoo boys?
Over there, how many people even do Yahoo in the north? So it's not their culture to do that. This is where it is. So that is the thing.
All right, we'll take this breather. When we come back, we'll talk more. It's still Journalist Hangout. We'll be right back after this breather. Welcome back. It's a multi-award winning program, Journalist Hangout, reaching you live from TVC News from our headquarters here in Lagos, Nigeria. And we are looking at the present situation from Lagos here. And there's a 24-hour curfew. And this is as a result of the NSAS protest that has degenerated all over the states. And Wale, yesterday we had Benin City, Edo State, the capital. They actually, that story, I still find it very difficult to believe. They went to a prison, released close to 2,000 prisoners, and I saw some of the prisoners online saying, "I've been there for 4 years. I thank God. I thank God." And that one was, it was frustrating.
Yes, sir.
What do you make of this situation? Was that the aim and objective of NSAS?
No, I think that was. I don't think that action was carried out by the NSAS group. I think the momentum was hijacked by criminal elements. But then, I think when that protest started some 12 days ago, there should have been efforts to protect strategic institutions like the prisons. So I think that prison was not. There was no adequate provision to. They should have anticipated, that there's a possibility that an organized criminal cartel might hide under that NSAS protest to attack the prisons. So there was really no adequate protection for the prison. So they went there to release a lot of people. But the fact also is that there are a lot of
prisoners to be released from the correctional center, like
without
going to Ikoyi prison, going to this thing without for protesters to just go there.
There is no way. The prisons are protected by iron bars, very strong iron bars that you need to cut. You need very strong weapons to cut them. But you need you need a kind of very strong iron to cut to remove those things. So there were internal collaborators, either warders or, it was planned, it was pre-planned. There was no way they could just go to that prison like that without any resistance and then, release thousands of people. So I think
that's a challenge to the Ministry of Internal Affairs and
we've had prison,
Nigerian Correctional Center.
We've had thugs and criminals raid prisons in the past to free their colleagues. It's not the first time. In Curfew, for example, criminals went there. It all depends on the level of fortification of that prison. And if it is not well fortified, if the security is not of the maximum hue, then you won't be surprised if that kind of jailbreak happened. So the hoodlums must have noticed that there is lax protection of the prison before storming the place to release their colleagues, because I'm sure a lot of the people detained there were their own colleagues, their fellow, their comrades at crime, Okay. So that is the thing. I think it has to do with the level of protection. I don't think anybody can break into Kirikiri, for example, and say it depends on the level of protection. And this is a challenge to us now that all correctional facilities must be well fortified. There must be an armored tank,
I have Professor Abigail Ogweze on the line. She is the former head of department mass communication, University of Lagos. Many thanks for joining us, Prof.
I just want to contribute to the NSAS protest.
Okay.
I think that this is one too many, and the youths are angry, justifiably so. We all live in this country. When you talk about rebranding Nigeria, this is the rebranding of Nigeria. We need to talk about social justice. We need to talk about things like access to healthcare, access to education, electricity. You can't keep an army of youth, keep them unemployed. You don't create the enabling environment, and you want them to remain in peace. I think that the government invited what they are getting from the youth now. And we should not pretend over this again. We thank God for the likes of the Lagos State Governor, who has taken leadership. You can't have a leader that is not engaging. He has to be more relational with the youth. We did not vote in ministers or IGP. We voted in the president. He should come and address us and give milestones. Give us an action plan, doable. There are some that are immediate, medium term, and long term. And we need to see action. We need to match his actions with words. And the political office holders, all duty bearers in Nigeria, should see with this, they should begin to see what we have ahead of us. And it is high time they begin to focus on governance more than politics. You can go to the house for just one term and make your impact. Go to your constituency, make impact. I think with this now, they will begin to realize that when schools are shut down and they take their children away, that they themselves are not safe. They should fix infrastructure. Our boys and girls are very competitive. Putting this protest together should show them that we have people, we have the right human resources to drive this country. They should think of bringing in youth into governance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you for that contribution. Laika, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has appealed to the protesters to stop their protests and give government time to implement its request. What do you make of this appeal?
Yeah, I think the appeal is coming at a very good time. And these are things that people should listen to. I want us to see it this way. Sometimes people, they will say that you can't stampede the president to broadcast to the nation. They are looking at it as if it is being stampeded. No, it is a question of taking the leadership. Asiwaju Bola Tinubu has come out to now say that, look, people have had, the government have had your point. Give the government time to take its initiative and work with you. This is the kind of things that we need. But at this point, at the government level, government must itself seize the initiative. People around government have done their best. Asiwaju has done his best. He's a leader, he's a national leader of the party and a leading politician, a leading light politician in the country. He has spoken. What I expect the president or the leadership at the center to do now is to seize that initiative.
Thank you,
he has given a very good advice
for that submission. Meanwhile, the coalition of civil society organizations is kicking against possible use of soldiers to crush protesters, saying it is ill-conceived in the face of legitimate citizens' protest and a threat to the constitutionally guaranteed rights. Gentlemen, Jide, let me start from you. Yesterday, Femi Falana actually said this, that we should not deploy security, we should not deploy the military against these people, protesting what is legitimate. And the people they had in mind were the people that are actually pursuing NSAS, those ones that are not disrupting our livelihoods or are not, causing a mayhem all around.
I want to think that even thugs, even those hoodlums, those street urchins, those layabouts that are releasing prisoners and burning local government headquarters and police stations, the police can deal with them. We shouldn't be deploying soldiers for what policemen are capable of doing.
We had a situation where policemen were running yesterday.
No.
What was the advice given to the policemen? Order given to those policemen?
No.
They were running from citizens.
Okay, now. People, you've got to understand what was on ground. The IG told them not to fire at people. A lot of people that you saw running were not harmed. Those who tried to protect themselves the other day fired into the crowd. Accidental discharge happened in Surulere. What resulted from that? Some of them are going to face trial now. So the IG has said, don't use live ammunition against protesters. They are not prepared to run into trouble. So they decided to take to their heels. Instead of killing people, No, of course, if you are also caught unawares,
oh God.
if you are caught unawares, no matter what level of courage you have, you will take to your heels. That's why the Yoruba say, Moja Mosa, Lama Kikonju Logun. And even the great reggae singer said,
lives to fight again.
He who fights around away lives to fight another day. Bob Marley, you know, in that great song, Hidden. So this is the thing. They were caught unawares. A lot of them were not armed. They had to first escape.
Police station,
So
precisely.
the thing is, let me tell you, no matter how stubborn these boys think they are, if you unleash the police mobile force with all the equipment that they need, if you unleash the anti-terrorism unit of the police with the full complement of their weapons, these boys will run away now. It's not the first time that police put down this kind of mutiny against the state, because I consider what they are doing as mutiny against the state. So I believe that the police are better equipped to handle civil disturbances than the army. Let the army go and face Boko Haram. It is a fact that Boko Haram is still killing our soldiers. I was reading on Facebook, on Twitter the other day, one of the famous mobilizers of NSAS protesters, he said, have you noticed that since this protest began, there has not been killings by Boko Haram? And I said, this person does not know what's going on.
It has been grossly underreported.
154 Brigade of the Nigerian Army a few days back was overrun. Not just attacked, overrun by Boko Haram.
154 Brigade.
Yes. Overrun. So what are we talking about?
If
you are not monitoring,
it's just like
you are not monitoring what's going on.
Coronavirus took the backstage.
You don't know what's going on there.
Now making the headline.
You are not current. You don't know what's going on there. You assume that nothing is going on because it was not reported.
Yes.
Some of us know that something went on. We have pictures. So this is the thing. It's not as if those policemen are cowards. It's just the way the thing came. And now the IG has said that anti-riot police should police our streets across the nation. You will see that there will be a difference. They too, they have the habit of killing people, but they are better equipped. At least they have
for internal security.
They have tear gas, water cannons. Soldiers don't use water cannons, and they shoot at you. They fire at your legs. If you are lucky, they fire at your legs. If you are not lucky, it's your head that they go for. Because they are trained to kill.
Or they beat you. Oh.
No. Look at even those guests coming out of, is it Army Depot? Already threatening civilians.
Yes, they beat you.
Those ones, they are what you call Korofo, no rank. They're already thinking of killing and beating civilians. So when we resolve the problem with the police, we reform the police, we will reform the army as well, because the army also has people with SARS tendencies. So it's not police alone.
Yeah. All right. Wale, with the curfew in place, once the protesters, we have a difficult situation. Like in Lagos, people were seen running helter-skelter just to buy gas, purchase things they will be needing in the next 24 hours. This is coming very, very late, and a lot of people were doing last-minute buying and selling. Would this affect what has been on ground before?
Well, I think this year has been it has been a dramatic year. So from the experience
COVID-19
with COVID-19, I don't think this will be strange to many of us. So the curfew, I'm very sure that people will be able to adjust. But I think it's a temporary measure. I believe this should give a window opportunity for the government to sit down and look at the demands being made by the protesters. Not just enough to say, okay, we are imposing a curfew. That does not resolve the problem when the fundamental issues that have been raised remain. But I think it's an opportunity for the government to sit back, sit down together and look at the challenges that have been posed by the NSAS protests. And it's not just about police reform. We are talking about transformation of the entire police system. We are talking about transformation of the economy. We are talking about the transformation of the act of governance that will make that to be inclusive, that will give people a sense of responsibility. We are talking about deployment of soldiers and all that, you know, and we should not think that every protest is a declaration of war. Where people in every democratic situation, people have the right to protest. But when you now begin to deploy soldiers, that means you are saying that people are protesting is a declaration of war. And I think that does not reflect the norms and practices of democracy. We should also not forget that in July this year, there was an High Court declaration in the case between Femi Falana and the Chief of Army Staff that declared using the army to suppress civil uprising as illegal. Justice Aikawa, that was in July this year. The Chief of Army Staff decided to go to the appeal court, and up to now, there has not been any counter declaration by the Court of Justice. So if the government decides to deploy soldiers, it's an illegal act. Soldiers are made for external aggression. But when consistently you use soldiers to fight your own people, that means that you are telling the whole world that the people are your enemy. And I don't think we should have a country where leaders think that every citizen that votes for those in power are the enemies of those that are in government. So we need to have a kind of a new mindset that will, run a democratic government that will reflect the wishes and aspirations of Nigerian people. There is pent-up anger. People are desperately angry against a cruel system that has no place, no hope for them, no salvation. And that's why you see that a spark can lead to anything. Yes. This and the South we are talking about, they are well organized and all that, but the thing is that Nigerians already are waiting. They are desperately waiting for any opportunity to vent their anger. So it's an opportunity, this curfew, it's an opportunity for us to sit back and be very honest with ourselves so that we can resolve the grievances that have been tabled, by SAS brigades.
You are talking about government intervention now, and this window of curfew will give room for government to intervene and everything. But unfortunately, the NSAS protesters, they didn't have this kind of structured representatives. So let's say the government wants to dialogue, want to call people now. Let's say this is what we are doing, this is what we are doing. In the last 24 hours, I've seen a kind of communication from the Lagos State government. Say this is what we've done, this is what we've done. And they've actually, some state governors, they've actually been setting up their judicial panel of inquiry into the excesses of this SAS across the country. So who will the government interface with?
Can I answer that?
Yeah. This is Yinka.
Okay. I believe very strongly that they have leaders. It's just a question of they don't want one person to be singled out, or some level of people to be singled out that these are the leaders. They have leaders. The opportunity the government now has is that now there is a curfew. You can now go behind the what is the essence of intelligence? What is the DSS there for? They will know those who are like their leaders. They can call them and say that, look, this is what we want to do. Give us some people who will talk with us and we know what to do. You can now dialogue with them. It is not that they don't have leaders. I know they have leaders. They have leaders and they are ready to dialogue. But what they don't want is like what happened with the strike that was called by the NLC and all that. And they don't want you to compromise their leadership. That is why. It is not a leaderless thing. It is a collective thing. But in that collective, there are some people who are the leaders. And the DSS or the government should be able to identify them and call them and say that, look, appeal to your people. Government has done a lot. In fact, this afternoon, I know that immediately the curfew was imposed, they've gone on Twitter and online and saying that, okay, we'll continue our agitation online. So they are organized. They know what they are doing. If they say they have no leader, how are they getting food?
Jide, yes, Wale seems to be so convinced about this leadership thing. But from what we've seen so far, people they've attempted to pose as their leaders everything, they've resisted them.
There is no central leadership. There is no central leadership. It's just similar to the protesters in Hong Kong. It's similar to their structure. I've seen a lot of things that these guys have done that convinced me that they borrowed some of the ideas of the Hong Kong protesters. Because for
Very
the Hong Kong, yes, it's very effective. And only 2 persons have died. That's to show you that in that place they have a culture of resistance. You know, only 2 persons, more than 1,000 injured, but only 1 or 2 persons have died. So you see, their own has not been hijacked by thugs and hoodlums. They are carrying out their resistance, their sit-ins and all that in an organized manner. They take over the street, they stay there. They take over National Assembly, they stay there. You tell them that, okay, you have suspended the bill. They say, no, you can't even have second reading. Withdraw it totally. You know? So they keep making demands. And sometimes they are successful, sometimes they are not. They've been on it for 1 year, 6 months. But you can't sustain that kind of long this in our country. Our country is not Hong Kong. Over there, they don't have a central leadership, and that is why they've been successful this far, because you don't know who to go for. But there's a nucleus, and the nucleus is made up of union leaders, you know, academics, students, religious leaders. So they have people who have a history of activism. They are the people who have meshed to form the core of protesters.
Them resisting people.
The core of protesters.
From their rallies.
They didn't want politicians to get involved. That was why when I read that, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is one of the people sponsoring them, I knew it was a silly thing to do. And thank God when they investigated, even the university where they claimed that professor was from, the course that they said, the department where they said it teaches does not exist. And no such professor is just an Alagbeleko, just sat down and wrote the story, just to cause disaffection between Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Buhari, you know. So this is what the era of fake news. Those guys, even if they see Asiwaju, they will protest against him. Yeah. The way they are. Let's tell ourselves the truth. So they don't have a central leadership, but there still has to be a way of engaging with them in a manner that will enable us to have a peace in the final analysis.
Ultimately, we look at days ahead, and we don't know
Our
what
people are definitely going through a lot. They just came out of a lockdown. Now they are going into another lockdown. People now have to stock food. They don't have so much money. Now they have to stock food. My advice to Mr. Governor in Lagos is, once you can see a ray of hope, I want their engagement with these boys in Alausa and Lekki to continue, so that they will leave those areas. They are still appealing to them. Maybe overnight they will succeed. You know, appealing to them to go home since there is a curfew.
It should not degenerate in any
way.
No.
And there should be, nobody should fire at them. Nobody should fire at them, because there will be serious consequences.
The international community, everybody.
You know, Nigerians, some of the Nigerians making so much noise on Facebook and asking for force. They don't have a sense of history. There is an international court of justice, and it is real. When you are a leader, you call for arms against your people, or they kill them. When you leave office, they will give you the Gbagbo treatment.
You go to HIJACK.
Even this man, the man in Sudan, is not safe yet. Even before he was removed, they were looking to harass him.
Court of Justice.
They were looking to harass him and bring him to face justice. We've seen people like Charles Taylor. Yes, you know, we've seen even Pinochet, as old as he was already almost 90. Maybe 90 or 91. You know, so you are not safe. If you call up, thank God the president has been very dignified in handling this manner.
That is even upsetting some people. They say, Mr. President, be quiet.
So they want him to use the army. They think the president does not think like them. So let him use the army. They kill 40 or 50 people. Then when he leaves office, they will go and arrest him. So that's what they want. When even, what's his name? The former chief of army staff was there was a petition against that. He was killing people. HIJACK. He was killing people in the Northeast recklessly, you know. And when the threat was so much, Jonathan had to remove him and replace him as chief of army staff. The ICJ is real. You can't turn the gun against your people. If you do it, they will give you the Gbagbo treatment. Gbagbo was taken away along with his wife. a president and first lady put on trial at the Court of Justice. I know that our leaders, the president and his people, they've done very well. They've handled this matter. They did not resort to the use of force. It's because they are sensible, they know the implications. And I believe that they will not be misled by people who do not know their left from their right, who are pushing that force should be used. We can still get these people off the street without necessarily using force. And we are seeing that in Lagos because the crowd is thinning out gradually.
Okay, I'll leave you with the sights and sound of the NSAS protesters.
Yeah, Sorosote live in DC. I'm Alan King, happening right here. Correct, Amala and Begiri King. Now you, Biko. Sorosote. Washington, D.C., Sorosote live.
I think you saw this on this side. Yes, right. I'll send it.
A whole car stand raised down on fire. A whole car stand here in Apo. A whole car stand here in Apo. Look at people's cars burning. Can you imagine? Look at people's cars burning. This is a car stand raised down. I don't know what these boys want. Attacking peaceful protesters. These car stands, these car sellers, they are not protesting. The car sellers are not protesting. Why are you burning our cars?
Yes, so the curfew, I don't say curfew started since 4 o'clock. So we are celebrating the curfew. Yes. They said it's 24 hours curfew. So we are celebrating the curfew.
That amateur video, we're not in any way concerned with what they were saying there. It's just something from the social media. We dissociate ourselves entirely from whatever they are said. That is just to the spot.
And some of those guys have no respect for anyone. Nobody has the right to disrespect the president. You know.
And that's our offering today. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. You can watch the repeat broadcast today by 11 p.m. I'm Ayodele Ozubaku saying bye for now and God bless Nigeria.